Hey guys, Rocambasco here, and today I tried beating Dead Island Riptide without taking any damage. So what does that mean? Well, taking damage, no matter how small, means I failed the challenge. Didn't matter if I sustained a minor boo-boo or swallowed an entire throwing knife. Damage is damage, which means game over. The one thing I love about no damage challenges is I'm not restricted in what weapons I use or how I play the game, just as long as I don't take damage. So anyways, the game begins where the last one left off. We land on a ship, the good guys turn out to be puppets, and not the good kind, and we get taken prisoner. As the handsome bald man inspected me, I hoped he would make his way down past my waist and inspect me with his mouth instead of a flashlight. But sadly, this was a head inspection with no head. I knew if I wanted to avoid taking damage in this playthrough, I would need to avoid melee combat at all costs, so I decided I would focus on using throwable weapons and firearms to avoid zombies from getting all up in my grill. With Logan being the throwing expert, it was obvious why I chose to play as him. Of the 14 skills I got to choose right now, most went to the survival tree, mostly for Logan's boomerang skill. I also chose backpack since I was going to need a lot of weapons for throwing, stamina since I was going to be doing a lot of running, I got this skill to increase throw distance, and obviously I chose fury. I left my room to find out what was happening with the ship, and that's when I stumbled upon a vent. The steam of this vent almost damaged me, but luckily the steam was cold, so I walked away unscalded, and that's when the engine room decided to blow up, sending me to the ground, and I took a smidgen of damage. The thing about Dead Island is, when you reload a checkpoint, you still have all of your character's current progress, but I figured out that to get around this, you just have to load the checkpoint when you die. Doing so actually does revert you to the last checkpoint. This time, I pulled a prank on the ship and made it think I was going into the engine room, but in reality, I ran down to the lower deck where I would be clear of the explosion and avoided taking damage. I made my way through the sinking casket, using my thrown weapons to take out any infected I came into contact with. I climbed the ladder hesitantly because I knew at this part the ship throws you again. I was afraid of taking damage, so I went back on the ladder. However, the throw doesn't actually damage you this time around, so I was relieved. That is, until I took too long to get up and started drowning. So of course, I finished the job myself, reloaded the checkpoint, and continued on. The rest of the ship is pretty easy. I get access to guns, so I cut down the infected in no time. The ship crashes, I wake up on the beach, and Harlow asked me to make my way to Paradise Survival Camp. I surprised myself when I single-handedly took out most of the infected on my own without getting hit once. But then I remembered I'm literally God, so of course I didn't have any trouble here. After defeating all the undead, Trevor gave me a flare gun to blow up the bridge, and now it was Fury time. Logan's Fury is actually another reason why I chose to play as him. He has the best Fury ability in the game. If you have a different opinion than me, then I respect your willingness to be wrong. Let me educate you. Not only does Logan's Fury deal insane damage, but the range is super far, and he can hit 4 enemies with a single throw. And because I'm using throwing knives, I can avoid melee combat. So, I'm sorry to say it, but if you believe anyone but Logan has the best Fury, then your subjective opinion is objectively wrong, and you're probably a liar too. And I know Perna also has ranged Fury with her gun, but I learned in my guns only challenge that it sucks more than a glory hole. After that, I was sent to find an old man with a map, because the road to civilization was destroyed. I suggested using Google Maps or even MapQuest, but Harlow said Palanai is a fake country and Google doesn't show you the layout of fictional made-up islands. So I made my way there to find him. He was being held prisoner by a lot of undead, so I cleared them all out with my Fury. I talked to him, and he told me that if there was a place we needed to go, then he's the one we needed to know, because he has a map. But this old man equivalent of Dora wouldn't give it up so easily. Apparently, me saving his life isn't good enough, because he wouldn't hand over the map until I retrieved his toolbox that he left on the other side of the zombie-infested town. And this is why old people deserve to die. I continued on like this for a while. I'd be sent on a mission, maybe take damage once or twice, but in no time, I would complete the task at hand and beat the mission. So I gave Marcus his tools, retrieved his map from his house, and then I returned to Paradise Survival Camp. But for some reason, Marcus was here. I may have accidentally revealed to him that I was immune to the virus, so now Marcus was convinced that eating our meat would make him invincible to the plague. I'm not sure if that would even work, but if he wanted to eat my meat, I was more than willing to pull down my shorts and let him go to town. But this old man was a maniac, both in the pyro and non-pyro sense, so we burned our fort, and now the undead were coming. Defense missions are actually a lot easier than I thought. At first, I tried assisting with melee to help defeat the zombies, but when a piece of fire licked my toe, I realized I was making things unnecessarily hard for no reason, other than to look cool, so my new strategy was to hide up here on this walkway while my friends did most of the work. I may have looked like some non-helping bitch, but my sense of self-preservation was too great. However, I wasn't totally useless. I would dive into the action if it was clear enough for me to do so, but mostly I just watched until my friends needed help. At that point, I would just throw Molotovs and grenades so they wouldn't die. It wasn't long before we finished off the final zombie, escaped the camp, and moved to Halai village. We tried reading Marcus's map, but the only thing it led us to was more confusion. So I went to Marcus's house to tell him that I was gonna kill him for being a liar, set our fort on fire, but then he attacked me before I had a chance to attack him. Marcus retired permanently, and now Harlow sent me to find a scientist who knows the island like the back of his cock. And this is where a new enemy gets introduced. The Grenadiers. What these guys do is throw explosive meat sacks at me, and I take damage if I breathe them in. They're definitely the most dangerous enemy I've encountered so far. A single spore entering my lungs means game over. After 90 minutes of trial and error, the game did me dirty. I was down to 2 grenadiers. I threw all of my upgraded best weapons at one of them, and he hit me with one of his meat sacks, which was a pretty typical encounter. At that very moment, the game decided to save a new checkpoint. The reason? Beats me, so when I decided to die and reload my checkpoint, I had lost all of my weapons. I had some really good stuff, and it was just gone. Banned to the Shadow Realm. If the game was gonna play dirty, then so was I. I started off by dying to restore my damaged health bar, then I used the duplication glitch to duplicate all my nail gun nails and throwing knives. However, the nails weren't very effective against the grenadiers, and neither was my throwing knives. So I left the laboratory and enacted Operation Dio Bomb. In exchange for giving Sam B some bolts, he gave me some Dio Bombs. I also bought a sweet new machete to duplicate since the game robbed me of all my other amazing weapons. Then, I returned to Kessler's lab, duplicated the machetes and grenades until I had about 206 bombs and a full inventory of machetes. It took me a matter of 3 minutes to kill all the zombies with bombs, something that I couldn't do in 2.5 hours with melee weapons. I recovered the reagents for Kessler, and now he told me about the Japanese tunnels that led to the ferry station just outside Henderson. Japan? Did he just mention Japan? You know I'm all about the Japanese culture, so I speedran the next few missions, a task that was easy thanks to all my new equipment, and now I was in the Japanese tunnels. But they weren't filled with love, anime, or the power of friendship like I thought they'd be. They were just filled with scariness, zombies, and mean humans. The lack of anime and the abundance of scariness made me haul ass through the tunnels as fast as I could, so I ran past everything, stopping only to take out the grenadier that was blocking the way, and of course, the humans who were shooting at me. Humans are a very small issue in this challenge, since they only appeared once or twice in the main story. I was afraid of getting shot, but surprisingly, I didn't get shot once in this whole section. It's a little hard to brag about achieving this when the people who are shooting at me aren't actually shooting back, but regardless, it was still an accomplishment. The one guy who did decide to shoot at me was lucky. Not lucky enough to shoot me, but lucky enough to be shown how it's done. I left the tunnels, and now it was time for the cage match. Despite all my rage, I felt like a rat in a cage, because the wrestler shrugged off my fury attack as if I just tickled him. And brother, he wasn't ticklish. But it wasn't him who ended up damaging me. It was actually a flaming corpse that I blew up with a grenade that got the job done. The undead spawning during this fight is what makes it truly hard. So the second time around, I started off by throwing a bunch of grenades over the fence at him. 30 grenades later, he was still alive, so I got bored and decided to move in. Luckily, the grenades brought his health down just enough for my fury to finish the job. And then, I used the guns to finish off the rest of the walkers. Shortly after this, I had to fight some prisoners at the ferry station. This is when you get to use the prolonged powerful version of Fury from the virus mutating. You temporarily become invincible, but before my Fury got activated, I got shot by one of the prisoners, so I exploded myself when it ran out and tried again. The second time around, I didn't take any damage before my fury activated, so I finished off all the prisoners with ease. When it came to the fairy defense part, there isn't much to say, but check this out. You hear that? I've been playing this game for over 10 years, and I've never heard a zombie make a sound like that, so I thought it was pretty weird. With the introduction of the screamer, I shit my pants. The reason is because when she screams, I can't attack, not even with fury. Good thing Chien was over there distracting the screamer, so 2 grenade throws later, she was down. And with that, we board the ferry and go to town. Clearing out the theater was a piece of cake, but fighting some sirens turns out to be a bigger pain in my penis than I was expecting. And I wasn't talking about these sirens, I was talking about these ones. These rectangular prisms of death lured me to my death like a siren does to sailors. Unfortunately, I didn't realize I died until after the cutscene ended, so I wasn't able to reload my checkpoint. You think it'd be easy fighting a stationary enemy that just chills there waiting to be shot, but when the ground is covered in mines and infected are infinitely spawning, it becomes not so easy. What I ended up doing was shooting the first siren and then running immediately to the second one. Then I would hide in this tent and take out the infected who were chasing me from the first siren. When the coast seemed relatively clear, I'd take out the second siren, run to the tower of the third one, jump on the ladder, climb up, disable the third one, and then snipe the fourth one from this tower. Then I took out the remaining undead and made my way inside the base. After I dealt with the undead inside, I called for help. The puppet master answered my call, and he said that he had sent us a chopper so we can be saved. Rescue was attempted, but apparently Sam didn't get the women and children first memo, so he got shot. Apparently, the military didn't get the don't kill my friends memo, so we shot them too. Which brings us to the final defense part. The moment the cutscene ended, there was a zombie hitting me right before I even had time to process anything. I only had myself to blame for this. If I would have just been born with psychic abilities, then I could have easily predicted that he would be there and avoided taking damage. So really, that hit was on me. I had to die in order to reset my health since I got a checkpoint the moment after I got hit. Other than that, this final defense part was easy. I even almost beat it on my first try, but of course a zombie snuck up on me while I was too busy being helpful. This became a pattern for the next while, and I even reset checkpoint so many times that it broke the progress bar, so I didn't even know how far along I actually was anymore. In the end, I figured out that the strategy to completing this rooftop defense was the exact same strategy as every other defense part. Obtain the high ground, rain down explosives and machetes and fury upon my enemies until there was no one left for me to kill, and now I was in the end game. I located Professor Puppeteer near the helicopter crash site, and he told me about a boat he had to escape the island. Not sure how we were supposed to use it since John was telling us in the beginning of the game that there was a naval blockade surrounding the island. But I guess everyone went home now and abandoned their post since it'd be inconvenient for the progression of the plot. So I made my way to the docks, I broke a gate with a bulldozer, shot a ram with a rocket launcher, got screamed at by a screamer as I crossed this corner. I made sure that would never happen again because I don't like getting yelled at, and I even ran by a wrestler and a ram unscathed. But of course, a walker shanked me as I ran by. I did the same thing twice expecting a different result, and I got a different result, so I'm not sure if that makes me insane or not, and now I made it to the docks. Same old down here, and now it was time for the Harlow fight. She was crazy and wanted me to stay on the island so I wouldn't infect the rest of the world with the zombie virus. We were arguing like an old married couple, so of course I handled Harlow the same way a man would handle his woman after 40 years of marriage, with violence, and then I'd blame it on Alzheimer's. When the fight began, she immediately started shooting me, so I reloaded the checkpoint. The first time this happened, I spawned across the lab, but then teleported back in the room with her. But the third time, I spawned out here and stayed out here, so I threw grenades at her until stage 1 was over. In stage 2, she was less dangerous since she just chases me with a chainsaw. My initial attack didn't work as planned, so I shot at her again, and missed yet again, so maybe I am insane. I finished her off with my fury, and now stage 3 began. In stage 3, I just ran around the lab until it was time to take the mutagen, so I took it, and now it was time for the final showdown. Once again, I have prolonged powerful fury. Unlike the time this happened at the ferry station, I'm not invincible this time, so I kept jumping back as I threw my throwing knives at Harlow. Not only were my attacks staggering her, but since I had the final Fury upgrade, it was also targeting the zombies all around us. So in no time, I defeated Harlow and the rest of the zombies. I made my way to the boat, left the island, and beat the game. So can you beat Dead Island Riptide without taking damage? Technically yes, because there's no parts in the game where you're actually forced to take damage, but I took a lot of it throughout the game because I just suck at the game. Well, subscribe, leave a like and a comment if you like, and I'll see you all in the next one.